They say some doors, once crossed, are never opened again. For most prisons, the sentence ends, the time is served, and the gates eventually swing wide. But there is a place where the gates are one way, a place where leaving is not an option. It sits far from any city, swallowed by forests and rivers that feel like natural moats. The walls rise not just from stone, but from fear. Every country has its myths, haunted houses, cursed villages, forbidden woods. But here, the myth is a prison. The locals call it a black hole, a place where men enter but never return. It's said that inside, hope is a currency even rarer than food, and the price of survival is obedience. When I first read about it, I thought it was an exaggeration. Prisons are meant to hold, not to bury. Yet the more I dug, the more the stories piled up. Prisoners serving short sentences who were never seen again. Families waiting decades for a release that never came. Guards who whispered about unexplained disappearances, accidents, and punishments that went too far. And the scariest detail wasn't what happened inside. It was that no official record admitted it existed. So let us step into the shadows of this place. Let us walk through the gates of the prison where no one ever leaves alive. Every nightmare begins somewhere. This one began decades ago, during a time of upheaval. Governments were falling, ideologies colliding, and new regimes needed a way to make opponents vanish without a trace. So they built a prison. It wasn't advertised. There was no ribbon-cutting ceremony, no name on the maps. Officially, it was a correctional colony for the most dangerous criminals. In reality, it became a dumping ground for anyone considered inconvenient. Political dissidents, journalists, minor thieves, even people guilty of nothing at all, just swept up in a raid. They were all sent to the same place, condemned not by law, but by silence. The conditions were designed not to rehabilitate, but to erase. Food was scarce, medical care non-existent, and labor was endless. Guards were instructed to maintain order by any means necessary. When someone died, the paperwork vanished along with them. International organizations tried to ask questions, but answers never came. Inspectors were denied entry, records lost in fires, names scrubbed from archives. In a world obsessed with documentation, this prison thrived on absence. What fascinated me most was not just the cruelty, but the methodical precision. Someone had engineered an institution that left no trace, not of the living and not of the dead. It wasn't just a prison. It was a machine for forgetting. Numbers can numb us, but stories cut through. One former guard who later fled the country described his first day inside. "I was told," he said, "that I should never learn the prisoners' names. If I did, I would start to think of them as human. Instead, they were given numbers. Men became digits, voices without history, but even numbers whisper." One prisoner, known only as 731, was rumored to have tried escape, not over walls or through tunnels, but by feigning death. He stopped eating, stopped moving, slowed his breathing until guards declared him gone. They wrapped him in a cloth, carried him to the pit behind the east wall, but when they threw him in, he gasped, and for that gasp, he was buried alive. Another story tells of a teacher who had criticized local officials. Sentenced to 5 years, his family waited at the gates when the term ended. He never came. No explanation was given, only silence. The family still waits. His granddaughter now carries his photo, asking the same unanswered question. Where did he go? Inside the walls, whispers spread like wildfire. Some said the prison was built on cursed land, others that secret experiments were carried out in hidden basements. The truth was simpler and darker. Human life was disposable. The system did not forget, it erased. And yet, even in such a place, humanity clung on. Prisoners carved messages into the walls with broken spoons. A scrap of poetry here, a name there. Proof, however faint, that they existed, that they were more than numbers. What happens outside a prison often matters more than what happens inside. And in this case, silence became complicity. Governments denied the rumors. Journalists who investigated found themselves harassed, arrested, or vanished. Families learned to stop asking questions. In time, the prison became a ghost story, whispered, feared, but never confronted. And yet, every so often, a crack appeared. A leaked document, a smuggled letter, testimonies from survivors who somehow slipped through the cracks. They painted a picture so consistent, so horrific, that denial became its own confession. Experts compared it to the worst gulags of the 20th century. One human rights lawyer said, "This prison is not about justice. It is about disappearance. It is about making people unpeople." Still, no country intervened. No international force stormed the gates, because to acknowledge the prison would be to admit how many lives had already been stolen, and that was a number no one wanted to face. The silence was not ignorance, it was convenience. There is a haunting truth about prisons like these. They outlast the men who built them. Regimes fall, governments change, yet the walls remain. New guards replace the old, new prisoners arrive, and the cycle continues. Today, the prison still stands. Its name is never spoken on television. Its location appears blurred on maps. Officially, it is nothing. But unofficially, it swallows lives just as it always has. And so we are left with a question. What does it mean for a place to exist where no one leaves alive? Is it simply a symbol of cruelty? A relic of power unchecked? Or is it something worse? A mirror reflecting how easily societies can erase people when it is convenient to forget them. When I think of the prisoners, I don't imagine faceless numbers. I imagine the teacher who never came home, the family waiting outside the gates, the guard who whispered to me that the screams never stopped. The world will move on. The prison will not. And somewhere tonight, behind those walls, another man is counting the days, not knowing that the count will never end. And maybe that is the real sentence, not the years written on paper, but the slow realization that you were never meant to leave. This is not just a prison, it is a warning, a reminder that silence can be deadlier than chains. And as long as it stands, the prison where no one ever leaves alive is not only their story, it is ours.